And blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning. Dave Petzo with us, the Petzo Center, Petzo Financial. Thank you for joining us, sir. We missed you yesterday.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be in today. Thanks for reversing. You know, the markets are closed on Martin Luther King Day.
Well, they're closed, but you know, the News Watch never stops right here on the old KIDO Talk Radio. 4 good days for you in the markets. You must be pretty happy last
Very
week.
happy. Last week was good. And actually, it's, 3 or 4 weeks in a row now, Kevin. So the market's been up. In fact, since the bottom, we're up 12%. That's a big jump. And that's, again, back to those lessons of, just when it looks dark, which was the day, Christmas Eve, and just when it looks the darkest, we turn around and rally huge. And we did. We were up 1,000 points a day after Christmas, and it kept going after that. So, it's again, you have to stay. You have to stay in the game. I just read an article last night that was talking about one company had $13 billion coming out of it, and it just went, wow, what is wrong with people? This is not a hard game to play. Apparently, it is emotionally. When markets go down, they just bail. It's weird.
Let me take issue with you for a moment, because there are some things that you should get out of, and I find it tough. Look at GM when they went under.
Okay, if you're talking about individual companies, you are absolutely right. The overall market, which is the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? The overall market, or a mutual fund, or ETFs, however people want to trade things that have a big basket of securities in them, you just have to stay in the game. You just do, and it is absolutely deadly to get out.
Indeed, but I go back to that. I mean, GM went under. Some of these others went under. I think GM's in trouble again. I
do too, Kevin. I got to say, the big industrials always have a problem because their capital costs are so high. It's very difficult when you have big union contracts out there. And unless all the old people die, and again, I don't mean to be this, but again, I say this because we have to understand that the legacy cost of these programs is not just, GM is now moving out of the big union places. They still have legacy costs that are just huge. So even if they are making cars down in the South, Alabama, et cetera, then they still carry those costs with them, and that is a huge problem for General Motors. I don't think it's a good business at all. I don't think Tesla is a good business. It's very, very capital intensive, and so again, I totally agree with you. Certain industries are having huge problems, and they just never go away.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the headlines here locally, and you've got a group of Treasure Valley mayors saying housing not keeping pace with the population, job growth. You and I have been talking about this for years, not much you can do. And then you have people that are upset that you're having a lot of these low-income housing apartments being built. But if there's no affordable housing, what can you do?
Right. No, I agree with you. And I think it's great we're seeing more and more housing. Again, like you and I have talked before, it's you can call it tract housing, I guess. I don't know what name you say for it other than it's lower income. It's further out. It's not as high quality.
We're talking about apartments, though.
Well, it's the same thing. Both are being built like crazy, and I don't know where they think. If you don't want people living in a tent, that's where they have to go. So you can complain all you want, but we have got to have housing for people, or we just tell people, no, you can't live here. That's it. Just leave. And there actually are communities like Sun Valley does that. And so if you can't afford a very expensive home there, then you have to commute from another place. But we are a big valley and lots of room to grow here, and I think people are going to be growing, whether it's from here to Mountain Home. In fact, that's an interesting question. I'd like to ask somebody, why don't they ever build out that way? Is it because it's a wind tunnel? It's just dirty brown?
Dirty brown?
Well,
take a look at the
that's one of the more boring.
Here. It's a bunch of dirt.
Well, I
mean, it's brown everywhere here.
Yeah, but it's got that golden hue. It's beautiful, and there's some trees on top of those mountains too. But I just don't know why. We always build to the east in Boise, east and south. We don't build to the west. I'm sorry, opposite direction. We build west and south, not east.
Well, maybe that's an opportunity. If I were looking for a home, I would build out that way just because there's no traffic.
There is no. You're right. Yeah,
all things considered.
I know there's more people than ever coming from Mountain Home to work in Boise.
Right, and I guess they are seeing a spike in home prices. So we have that going on. Apparently, it looks like we might have a deal with China. That's why your beloved markets are coming back, much to the chagrin of some of us that cheer against them.
Yes, well, they can they also are coming back because the fundamentals are strong, right? We have a very good economy here, Kevin, and yeah, there's some geopolitical things. The government is shut down. Politics seems nasty as ever, and that's why with all of this noise, you always have to stop and say, okay, what is really going on fundamentally here? Because noise has a way of going away. It'll recreate itself into other noise down the road where we're worried about something else. But that's why you have to look at the fundamentals. What is underlying this? The best economy we've had in decades. The employment rate, particularly for the lower paid folks, minorities, as well as the wages coming up,
right,
is just at record levels.
You know, we talk about our quality of life, and thanks to Tea Party Bob and others, I've been outed for going to Hawaii, right? Anniversary present for myself and Mrs. Miller. But I noticed those folks there, I mean, the cost of housing is so high. And then you have, like, the Fairyland Hawaii, which is what most of us see, where your self-esteem goes up 1,000 points because the service is so excellent. You don't want for anything. Everything is just so great.
Right there.
And then you have the real Hawaii, where, you know, you can get a little apartment. It's like, you know, $2,500 a month, or of that nature. And you have people literally working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, 7 days a week. That's just how they roll there. Do you think that we're in danger because of the housing crisis, because of our own issues here, where we have more people doing that? And again, in America, you know, if you want to get ahead, you work harder. But really, in Hawaii, it just seemed like they were indentured servants. They were just working.
They are, because they are, and I think that the folks there, it's a bit.
It's a trade-off. Live in paradise.
Live in paradise in a tent, and I'm not joking. There's an awful lot of homeless there, aren't there?
Sure.
It's a huge problem for them because they don't pay very well there. People, and it's very expensive to live there, and they do it intentionally because, as one native said, you know, if we had good wages here, how could we possibly? Where would we put all the people?
Right.
So they don't pay well, and housing is restricted, and so they just don't have an ongoing demand. So people do get there, somehow, maybe lose a job, maybe they just got there somehow and managed to put up a tent. There's a lot of homeless there.
A lot of people move there to start over, though. I see a lot of people our age or older that are, you know, working jobs. Okay, let's talk a little bit about something semi-fun.
Okay.
And
let's make it really fun.
I'd like to know what our old friend Dr. Ahlquist is up to.
Okay.
First, looks like he's getting into the hospital business. And full disclosure, I do a podcast with Tommy Ahlquist. We have a good time. I'm a big fan of his. We're still working on. However,
I like Tommy Ahlquist. I like anybody that throws their hat in the ring.
Well, he's got his new company, Ball Ventures Ahlquist. Are you getting a little cup of coffee here? I can keep your attention.
No, you're great.
I'm a little defensive
totally
here this
focused
morning.
Here. Yes, you are.
Dave Petzo's getting coffee while my conversation must not be stimulating enough.
I'm riveted.
Hopefully it is for you at 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. So his group buys that hospital, Salzer, or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And they're looking at, even before the president announced this, transparency when it comes to the hospital game. Like, you're going to know your bill and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So he's getting into that game, doing a lot of development, starting this new company, working a lot. You know, what do you think's going on? What do you hear in your circles? Because you guys travel the same circles.
I don't hear anything about any political ambitions or anything.
Not political.
Yeah.
But as a businessman, okay, so he's doing this. Then, you know, it's really weird because people are making a big deal out of the old corn maze site. You know, yonder out by Meridian, by Eagle Road.
Yeah.
So it's and maybe I need to work on my news judgment because I was talking to these guys and they said, yeah, we bought this facility. Well, they sent out a release. It's going to be a golf facility where you can go, drink, listen to music. Idaho Central Credit Union, I believe, is going to have their headquarters there. It's going to be a big entertainment thing. Maybe, I don't want to say like the Village, but I guess comparable to that. and people are really raving about that. So we've got that. There's a development that they're planning off Chinden. So what are you seeing here based on my description to you?
Well, I see a city that is thriving so much that it's creating these different cores, if you will, where it isn't just Boise, it's the village in Meridian where the people live out in Eagle, Meridian. And it's going to be out there again in Meridian, another core, another big, huge group of people that are going to say, sure, let's go to dinner. Let's go out for some entertainment. Let's do something, and they don't have to go very far.
But back to what Tommy's up to. That's what I want.
Oh, yes, what you want? I don't know what he's up to. I just think he's a businessman, and they see an opportunity there.
They're doing the golf thing. They're doing the hospital thing, this Chinden thing. Yeah. I mean,
that's what you call business, and they're seeing
hang
opportunity
out with
in all
these
three.
People. What's going on there?
It's a business opportunity they see, and I don't know enough about medicine at all to be thinking I would even.
Well, you tried to heal your own broken leg.
That's right. But it is. It's one of those things that I think that there's opportunity in all of them. And when business enters, for example, into something that's so antiquated, so ridiculous, so bureaucratic as medicine is, I think it's nothing but opportunity. You think about how bureaucratic these hospitals are. I would think that they were just made to pick the bones off of them, because this is a real opportunity for business people to come in and take advantage of huge holes. And I think it's great because when you get more competition to the hospitals, as you said, it's like primary health and things like that. I'm a huge fan of those organizations, and pray that they don't get taken over by one of the hospitals, because we need that. We need that competition instead of having monopolies.
Well, primary health is blowing up. They're expanding.
Yep.
But you take a look at, so we have churches, dentists, and gyms here in the Treasure Valley. So we've got these two big, huge, giant hospitals, St. Luke's, St. Al's, and then we have a couple that people may or may not know about, Treasure Valley Hospital here in the city. Then we have in Caldwell, we have West Valley Medical Center. They're very proud of that. In fact, I need to get there and yap to those folks and other people. And then, we have the idea of another hospital. Mm-hmm. Do we really have, St. Luke's and St. Al's continues to expand. Finally, they moved out to Nampa. But you take a look at this. Do we really need another hospital?
As we're growing, I guess the answer is yes, because if you're filling the beds...
Well, you don't believe in hospitals.
I don't want to have...
You broke your foot and you fixed it yourself, put a splint on it.
Well, we went in the next day.
Right.
Yeah. But the answer is, I think that we have an awful lot of hospitals here. I do believe that, as I understand, we need more rehab centers and things like that. But it is a circumstance where we are, we seem to have enough hospitals. But Kevin, I'm not an expert. If those beds are full and there's room for another one, then we need another one.
Right, and it would be nice not to wait 4 months for a colonoscopy around here.
Is that how long it takes? I
love the medical profession.
Yeah.
Because they scare the heck out of you.
Yeah.
And then you go in, with the exception of my friend Jeremy, who's listening right now, who is responsible for keeping me safe and healthy, my doctor Jeremy. So what I'm saying is that you go in and they go, oh, you're going to do this, you're going to die. And then all of a sudden you go to the bureaucrat. The bureaucrat says, okay, what's your copay? Your insurance doesn't cover it, and you're going to be with us in 5 months. And you're going, wait a minute. This is not the gulag here.
Yeah.
Does really anybody enjoy going to the medicine places, the hospitals and such? Is it really a joyful experience?
No, and that's why we need more competition there. Because
that's what Tommy's going to bring. He's going to bring the happiness.
I hope so. It doesn't have to just be happy. It just has to be customer service. That's what we're talking about. When when bureaucrats do the work. When you think of that, it's not just a movie you see. Why in the world is there a black market in Soviet Russia? Because you couldn't get anybody there to fix your furnace in the middle of winter in Moscow. It's the same thing everywhere else. There's going to be private doctors. There's going to be access for people that have money. There always is going to be some kind of market out there, because if it takes 5 months and you don't want to wait 5 months, somebody just needs their palm greased and you can get in earlier. That's the way the markets work. And if we have enough competition, enough people out there, then the service goes up automatically. It's like you and I have talked many times. The service in America is so much better than anywhere else in the world. Maybe Scotland's pretty good too.
Hawaii's pretty good.
That would be part of America.
Some people don't view it that way, but I'll go with that.
Okay.
I view it as part of America.
Yeah, well, last I checked, it was one of the states.
Oahu, or Aloha, or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
One more question for you. You're a golfer.
Yes.
Okay, I can put on my gravestone that I've never played a round of golf in my life.
I'm sorry about that.
I choose to be a victim of not playing golf. So you ever heard of this Top Golf?
I have. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Listen to him. Listen to him, folks. That's Dave Petso. He's like excited like a little kid. So apparently, allegedly, this facility is going to be very similar to this Top Golf thing.
Yep. That's what I wondered if that's what you were talking about.
Yeah, what do you make? But getting back to the entertainment option, so Tommy Alquist, BVA, they do this. Then another facility that I find fascinating, you have this indoor tennis facility in Eagle, right by State Street when you go by. And
yeah.
Go, wow, that's got to cost a lot of money. So we're having all this entertainment stuff. Are there enough golfers here to really make that happen?
Yeah, that's a good question, Kevin. But the answer is absolutely, in my opinion. Again, we are clearly looking for more and more experiences. It's the way life has been restructured, if you will, where people have moved away from the TV, except when they can dial in exactly what they want to watch on Netflix, right? They don't just watch network TV at all anymore, and especially the younger people are going out and having these experiences, no matter what it costs. I mean, who would have thought that Big Al's a big bowling alley
young
would
people
become
aren't
popular?
playing golf, though.
Yeah, there are a few, but they're not really there. They're not really there for just golf. Golf
young
is
people
dying.
are there.
Golf is dying. It is because it's too expensive, but not when you go to a place like that.
Right.
It's a bar. It's chicks. It's the whole fun of going and meeting people.
Did you say it's chicks?
Yeah. Well, that's what young people are out there. Young guys. I mean, come on. That's what young guys are looking for.
Well,
Where are women?
Some young guys are looking for the boys too.
Well, okay.
More coming up next. Kevin Miller, Dave Petso, KIDO Talk Radio. All right, there we have it, the Dave Petso theme song, Money, Money, Money. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. So you live in the city of Boise, right?
I do.
You love the city of Boise. So,
other than their property taxes, I don't love that.
Now you have the Idaho Freedom Foundation is suing the city of Boise. The mayor was mad. He put out a mean tweet about them for using urban renewal districts to bypass the Idaho Constitution, which requires that cities must pass a referendum with 2/3 vote to take on the big debt. Now you have the mayor. He's upset. He's mad. Your thoughts on the city being sued, and does that have any negative economic impact?
No, it does not. It's good. It's a good thing. I don't particularly know what the lawsuit is about, so I don't want to comment on it from that perspective. But I think it's wonderful to have organizations out there saying that's enough. You don't do this just because you want to. The idea that the mayor can choose to put us in debt for a stadium that people, I haven't heard overwhelming support. I haven't even heard 50% are supporting it, and yet we're all going to go into debt and have to pay for it with higher property taxes. I think it's great that people are out there. Is that going to hurt development? Of course it doesn't. When you lose your freedom and then all you have is corporate welfare and you get to choose, for example, I'm in the downtown corridor, and so my building is, and so I get to pay unbelievably high property taxes, Kevin, well over 2%. And a chunk of that money goes into the downtown development, of which is handed out because somebody wants a new facade on a building or what have you. In other words, it's corporate welfare. It's like, I want $1 million of that, and I want $1 million of that. How am I going to get $1 million of that to put a new facade on my building? And the answer is, you got to know people. You grease palms. You're corporate welfare. I don't know the right people, so I just pay the taxes. And that's what happens in something when government just decides who wins and decides how to tax. And where we don't have say, that doesn't hurt development. To have people say, time out here. You can't just do this and shove it down our throat. They are correct in being able to do this, and it doesn't hurt development to have the mayor get angry because somebody's saying, you got to be held accountable, and you got to ask people why they want something. You got to sell us on the idea that we should be paying for a stadium, that we should have trolleys that go nowhere, that we need high-speed rails and things like that. If that's what you want to do, then sell people on it.
Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio.
7's Eric Everett.
Here we go, Kevin Miller, Dave Petso. Let's talk a little bit about Sears. It looks like they're safe for now. Your thoughts on the end or the beginning of Sears? If you were running Sears, how could you save it? How would you save it?
I don't think you can. It's a traditional retailer. It has no online presence. It's in all over the country in dying mall locations. So it is. I just think it's it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
And some of the stores they own, so there's real estate value there, and that's all they're buying. They're certainly not buying a retail enterprise anymore. They're buying the real estate that it sits in. And so I just don't think they can compete against a Macy's, which seems to be a well-run company, and others that are still in the traditional retail space. Macy's is developing some online presence, as anybody who is doing okay or good is doing. And Sears has not, and they've never reinvested in their online. It's always been a game about real estate. Eddie Lampert, the CEO and owner of the company, has driven this business down to zero, and he still has investors. It's amazing to me.
You know, I think this is how I would save Sears, and you see Walmart doing this, is, okay, what do we love about Amazon? We can buy something and it's there in 2 days.
Yep.
But, you know, Walmart, I think, is kind of doing this where you can go to walmart.com, you can either pick it up in the store, or better yet, you can get it within 24 hours.
Yep.
Because I'm sure Sears, I mean, you have these huge retail spaces, right? And maybe you give a discount that if you buy online to incentivize people to come in, you're going to get 20% off when you buy something in the store.
Right. Right.
You have all this brick and mortar. Look at Amazon, what they're trying to do. They were looking at putting a bookstore in at the Village.
Yep.
They were looking at these fulfillment centers. They were looking at everything else. So here you have, you know, at one time people were saying, you know, these are brick and mortars, but using the online to drive that.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see that at Walmart, though? I mean, can you define what Walmart's doing?
Yeah, Walmart is doing a great job of getting online. They're giving them a real run for their money online. And you're right. They also have the option you can take it back to a store, right? You don't like what you have, you take it back to a store. Isn't that one of the things you love about Costco? You go to any Costco store and you can take back what you don't like. You know, you get a rug, it's the wrong color. Okay, let's take it back, and you go get another one. It's that ability to get exactly what you want and the convenience of that. It's not convenient with Amazon because they don't have a place to take it. You can send it back, but then you got to wrap it back up. You got to send it back.
Right. It's all about convenience. So using the Amazon vibe against them, if you will.
Exactly. So I agree, Kevin. I'm not saying that that's the case, but that's my point really with Sears. They've never developed that online presence, and they compete against Macy's and others. They all, but your point with Walmart is also very good because they are now really competing head to head with Amazon in that everything else space, and Amazon really doesn't have groceries yet, although I know Whole Foods is under their wing now. So,
now, finally, your thoughts on what we should be looking out for this week.
Kevin, the market seems to have quieted down a little bit. Maybe we've had a little bit of an overreach here, bouncing 12% in 3 or 4 weeks. And I just think it's really we're going to see it from earnings, whether earnings are strong and outlook is okay. So far, so good, Kevin. The earnings really are there, and again, if the outlooks on top of the current earnings are okay, not too negative going forward, I think you could see the market settling and starting to calm down and just continue moving higher.
Dave Petzo joining us here. One more final thought, Dave Petzo. Overtime, the government shutdown doesn't end. Your thoughts on? I mean, do you miss the government?
I don't, Kevin, but I understand that there's real problems out there and there's real people that are not getting paychecks and all those things. But the reality is this will end this very second that Democrats decide that they have overplayed their hand, and not until then. So they'll show up at Trump's office. He's already said time and time again he's willing to deal, and it's on them. And it just feels like maybe they've overreached. But you have a better sense of that than I.
I don't know about that, Dave Petzo. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Dave Petzo, Petzo Center, Petzo Financial Money Matters this Saturday, 8 to 10. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
And yes, to our friend Jeremy, I do sound stuffy this morning. By the way, props to everybody that continue to work outside. I don't know. I'm such a wimp that you go outside, you get a little snivels, and all of a sudden the world ends. But the people that work outside for a living, we don't thank you for enough. And maybe you're working at the window, Maybe you're like security guard Mike. You're outside in the elements working security. Maybe you're driving an Uber or a Lyft or whatever, like Two Fly Bry. I get it. And this has been a very mild winter. The next segment, you might want to say this is for Mark and Eagle. There's a big water fight going on in Eagle. By the way, phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. If you're just joining us this morning, we were talking about the mainstream, lamestream media. Folks, isn't it true that the media has to be our biggest threat? Now, some of the folks that are true believers in local media, they will get mad at me for saying this, but the media is evil. Some folks, they do a great job. And I could list them on my hand. Some folks, some enterprising people, they do a great job of bringing local attention to much-needed stories. Number one, you take a look at what happened at Walter Reed Medical Center. You take a look at the Veterans Administration. You take a look at what happened with the Catholic Church. That's the example of good journalism, exposing corruption. But then we have the media that wants to divide America. And I don't know what the media ever did, what our country ever did, what good people like you ever did to them to want to make them hate us so much. So quickly, before we get to the story at Eagle, Covington High School, Catholic school, kids go to the March for Life rally. And I'm glad that at least one Catholic high school and one Catholic school and one Catholic church actually supports life, because that's tough in our religion sometimes. Not everybody's Catholic. I understand that. But you say you're pro-life and you don't support these folks. You have these kids that go there. So they're assaulted. They're yelled at by the black Israelites, Hebrew Israelites, not to be confused with the black Israelites, saying horrible things, which we'll play for you coming up. And these young kids show restraint. And then you have the Native American activist, Mr. Phillips, who's a veteran, coming up there trying to antagonize them again. What type of God-fearing country do we live in where we give the people that are threatening little kids' lives, little boys' lives, where we have a 63-year-old man who, God bless him, has nothing better to do than to get his little drum. He wants to bang on the drum all day like Todd Rundgren and get in the faces of these kids and then lie about it that he felt threatened. Never mind by the black Hebrew Israelites, not to be confused with the black Israelites that are chanting and wanting to kill these kids. Never mind that the media doesn't check their sources. And what do next? They go after these kids, and then you have people threatening them, saying to kill them, to out them. And these are famous people. And then you have failed Hollywood actress Alyssa Milano saying that the new KKK hood is the red Let's Make America Great hat. Make America Great hat. That's the new KKK hood. Can you believe that? And I know you're getting angry, but don't be like a lot of folks in Hulk Smash. We've got to have a sense of humor about this, right? At 580-5436, these could be your sons. And the reason why I say this is because there's a bias against boys. Look, and these are moms telling me this. And I have people on Twitter, at Kevin Miller Show, and others saying, well, that kid smirked at him. What would you want him to do? Do you remember when you were young? Maybe you do this when you're talking to your kids or your grandkids. We're so full of testosterone and emotion, and it's a powder keg. And the worst they have on this kid is that he wore a Trump hat and that he smirked at the guy. I'll apologize in advance. Maybe the guy had bad breath. I don't know. Isn't that the worst? I don't know how many adults would have had the same restraint. So that's one topic at 580-5436. From our news partners at Channel 7, remember when you hear Channel 7 on the radio, you're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Eagle residents fight proposed water utility rate hikes from possible Suez water purchase. Thanks to our friend Mark at Eagle for sending us this one. Let's take a listen.
Back in November, Suez Water applied to purchase the Eagle Water Company, a local water system that provides service to about 4,200 Eagle homes and businesses. The $10 million acquisition comes with a price tag for existing customers.
Under the proposal by Suez, residential customers in Eagle that are served by Eagle Water can expect triple increase in their water bills over the next 3 years.
Attorney Norman Semenko was representing the Eagle Water Customer Group, a band of residents opposing the sale.
A group of citizens felt like that was just going to be too much of a rate shock on fixed income folks, on regular folks.
Semenko says the rate hikes would also be passed on to other Suez customers outside of Eagle.
It's a $10 million purchase that not only would it increase rates for existing Eagle Water customers, that $10 million cost is proposed to be spread amongst all Suez customers.
Jane Kreller with Suez Water says the rate increases are unavoidable.
Eagle Water Company, they haven't invested anything into the system, so the rates are artificially low. So anybody that comes in and purchases the Eagle Water Company, they're going to have to raise the rates eventually because they're going to have to do improvements on the system.
Kreller says if the deal does go through, Suez would invest $13 million worth of improvements to the existing water system.
We'll be changing out meters, doing some work at the well houses, just things that needed to be done over the last several decades and just haven't been done.
The sale of the Eagle Water Company to Suez must first be approved by the Public Utilities Commission, which would take rate increase concerns into consideration. But the city of Eagle could intervene first and purchase the Eagle Water Company through the first right of refusal. That will be discussed at Tuesday's City Council meeting.
And we want to thank our friends at Channel 7 for that on 107.5 FM, 580 AM KIDO Talk Radio. Doesn't Suez own, like, all the water around here anyway? And aren't they a French company? Just asking the question. So many of you think, well, what's the big deal? Well, rates are going to go up. And by the way, Norm Semenko is not someone you want to mess around with. Former state chairman of the Idaho Republican Party. Of course, he worked with then candidate Russ Fulcher, now Congressman Russ Fulcher, very good attorney. Certainly someone who knows his way around Idaho governance, law, courtrooms, and politics. Mr. Semenko is a heavyweight, and it will be interesting to see whether or not these group of concerned citizens get their way. But, you know, and again, maybe I'm old-fashioned. Maybe I'm antiquated. Maybe I'm an analog guy in a digital world. There we go. But the idea of a foreign company buying something, maybe that's not so bad. We all drive foreign cars, right? You know, what's the downside? Well, another foreign interest owns part of Idaho. Maybe the city of Eagle. And by the way, the city of Eagle, one of the best run in the Ada County in our state. People love to move to Eagle. In fact, if you can afford to live in Eagle, that's where people live, apparently. But the idea of Eagle Water Company being purchased, you know, is that a big deal by the Suez folks? We'll talk a little bit about that at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. A couple other things going on nationally. BuzzFeed continuing to back its now debunked report that Michael Cohen was told by then candidate Trump or President Trump, take your preference, that he was supposed to lie to Congress. I mean, does anybody really believe Michael Cohen? Does he have any credibility? That's number one. Number two, the shutdown continues at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Are you feeling the pain? By the way, our friends at St. Vincent de Paul, along with the Boise Philharmonic, put on a free lunch and free concert for furloughed workers, for workers of the government shutdown. And you know how it is. What's the difference between a recession and a depression? A recession is your neighbor's out of work. A depression is everybody's out of work. Right? What's the difference between a government shutdown that impacts us and one that doesn't? By the way, the other states that are impacted the most, Montana, the closest to us, that has the most federal workers that are not getting paid. So we'll talk a little bit about that. By the way, we expect more from Washington, D.C. at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. But the government shutdown continues. Does anybody miss the government?
I'm among a number of legislators who have filed, members of Congress who have filed legislation. In the last month, introduced 3 bills to address some of the loopholes in the immigration law. And we're working individually with Democrats, trying to reach some consensus so that we can continue to move the ball forward on this really important issue.
Right. But the problem is Nancy Pelosi has the power, and she doesn't care about the government workers. She doesn't care about the wall. The only thing that she cares about is destroying Donald John Trump. Kevin Miller, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Now, there are so many other things going on in the world today. Let me get back to just this one issue that a lot of folks want to comment on. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Let's take a listen.
I wish I didn't have to be, doing every post, but sometimes I just feel like people aren't being held accountable. And until we all start pitching in and holding people accountable, I'm just going to let them have it.
Right, so here you have Cortez, who now says the world is going to end in 12 years.
Millennials and people and, Gen Z and all these folks that come after us are looking up, and we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it? And this is the war. This is our World War II.
Okay, one more time here, and if you're just tuning in, this is the hottest Democrat in the world, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Millennials and people and, Gen Z and all these folks that come after us are looking up, and we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it? And this is the war. This is our World War II.
This is our World War II. I didn't know that the ozone, I didn't know that the trees, I didn't know that the glaciers were going to declare war on us. And they already have. Remember, this is the young lady that didn't really know the branches of government, and she's an elected congressperson. Comparing World War II. And sadly, unless many of us have known veterans, have family members that were veterans, or are veterans of World War II, we can never understand where the world was at that time. On the brink of being taken over by fascism. A branch of socialism that now seeks to take over our beloved great country today, led by ignorant folks that have no knowledge of what they speak about. But I guess I have to laugh. Otherwise, I sound like a mean-spirited guy, and we're not allowed to be mean-spirited these days. I mean, the world is going to end in 12 years. This is our World War II. In World War II, you had people that died. I don't see people dying from the alleged climate change. Do you? Traffic and weather together. Let's get to work safely and on time.
Channel 7's Eric Everett.
And I'm Kevin Miller. Let's go back to your phone calls. The place to be heard, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Max.
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
Not bad, and you?
Hey, living the dream.
There you
I
have
was
it.
just listening to Occasional Cortez there. I heard it differently. She said, this is our World War II. Does she know that we already had a World War II? Did she mean to say World War III?
Right.
She is the quintessential product of a public education. 29 years old, right?
29.
Good. Look, thank goodness she's not old enough to run for president. What an absolute problem we have. Now, I'll say this. The fact that she got elected says an awful lot about her electorate, doesn't it?
I would say.
Kevin, just keep up the good work. And I've said it a million times, so I'll say it again. Here we go. Give me a call. Let's do an Idaho Insights. My books are still selling. People are still reading. And I get stopped on the street a lot, asked about my books now.
Well,
Plug,
you're
plug,
a rising
plug.
star in the literary world.
No, I wish I were. But it is paying the bills. That's more than most writers can say.
I would
They're
agree.
paying the bills.
I would agree. Congratulations. And as I say every time, yep, we'll get right on it.
And can I plug my books?
Right. At Amazon, go to bigmax.com. Quickly, your books.
Okay, the books are Eyes on China by Max Allen and Paper Dragon by Max Allen. If you want to get past all the hullabaloo and all of the silly rumors like social scores and things that are not true, and you want to know the truth about China, this is today's China. I lived there 15 years. I spent 2 hours a day studying the country, learning, working with contacts. If you want to know the truth, read the books. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Max. Take care.
Bye.
Well, this is a first. We have a superhero calling in. Aquaman joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Aquaman.
I still don't have my gills. I still don't have my webbing. My swimming skills are really, really terrible. I just got back from Southern California, and I'm telling you, the way things were in the water, it was atrocious. And Ms. Cortez, biggest problem is how she's going to pay for me to make the full transformation into Aquaman. That's her biggest problem. My biggest problem, aside from not having the funding I deserve to be made into a proper Aquaman, is that I can remember when I was in grade school and I was given this Weekly Reader magazine. And in the Weekly Reader magazine, it said that if we don't do something about our car emissions, that we were going to experience global freezing. I'll bet you can remember that same Weekly Reader, Mr. Miller.
Yes, remember it quite well. Got to run, Aquaman. Take care.
Whatever happened, that was a long time ago.
Good luck, Aquaman. Fox News is next on your home for Fox News on the radio, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Stay with us.